To everyone. This is Tom Lane, the Vice President of Marketing for DM2 Software. I'd like to welcome you all to our Cardlock Best Practices Part 2 webinar. Before we get started with the presentation, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping rules. Because of the large number of people we have attending today's webinar, we're going to keep everybody's phones on mute. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please feel free to enter them into the question chat window. You should see that on the right side of your screen about 2/3 of the way down. You can open up the question panel and just type those in, and we'll save some time at the end of today's webinar to go through those questions. If we run out of time and can't get to everybody's questions, we'll follow up with everybody individually and make sure that they get answered. The other thing I'd like to point out is we are recording today's webinar. We'll put that on the customer content page of our website and send everybody an announcement letting them know when it's available to download so you can review it or share it with anyone else in your company that might not have been able to join us today. On that note, I'd like to introduce Emily Naylor. Emily is a professional service consultant and our resident Cardlock expert here at DM2. So on that note, I'd like to hand it over to Emily.
Good morning, everybody. On the 15th of December, we presented Part 1 of Cardlock Best Practices, and I just had so much material to cover that I wasn't able to fit it all in one session. So today is going to be a brief summary of what we covered in that session, and then moving on to the 2 or 3 topics that we didn't get to cover in December. The topics, first we'll review what we covered in December. The first was integrity and reporting, Cardlink versus financials, pricing. We talked about multiple networks, Cardlink, and then we were going to move on to Cardlink transaction alerts, eCardlink, and reducing paperwork. Cardlink versus financials, the key takeaway here was that Cardlock reports are basing their margin on the cost coming from Cardlock transactions, including cost tables for local transactions and network costs for the retail and remote or foreign purchases transactions. The general ledger, on the other hand, bases all of its reporting based on the costs coming from inventory issues. If you're not a standalone Cardlock and you're integrated with inventory, then when the inventory issues are updated, that's what writes cost of goods sold to the general ledger. Of course, if you are a standalone Cardlock or just not integrated with inventory, you're making your journal entries yourself for cost of goods sold. So summarized, sales come from Cardlock, cost of goods sold comes from inventory. Cardlock margin reporting most closely agrees with general ledger gross profit reporting when the users consistently stick to order of operations and daily work daily. In the order of operations, we discussed first thing we do every day is we purchase the fuel. We get the bill of ladings in. Then we update the cost tables. Best practice is to use your current inventory valuation for your costs. Then we update price tables, any customer maintenance, card management, site maintenance. Then we run the convert and edit. Following the convert and edit, we immediately update any bill of ladings that are created through net site setups, and we update the inventory issues. Then we run a rebuild account group unbilled amount. We talked about that utility last month or in December. And then we go on to the pricing only option and run the Cardlock analysis tool. Daily work daily. The reasons for doing daily work daily. The valuation report is a snapshot. You can't go in today and run the valuation report for day before yesterday. It's only for what it is as of what's posted right now. So it's important to get that valuation report every day so that you can get your costs accurately entered in the cost tables. You want to update those cost tables as soon as the bill of ladings have been received, and then the local transaction costs get locked in at convert and edit. So going back and correcting cost tables doesn't do you any good on margin reporting. Then issues are created. When issues are created, one batch is created for all the Cardlock issues. If you have multiple networks, or you have for instance, 3 raw data files, like 3 PT files, and you process them all in the same day, you process them in Cardlock and then go to inventory, they're all going to be in one batch. So daily work daily means every day processing those files so that we're getting the correct cost out of inventory and the correct cost in Cardlock. And balancing gallons is just a whole lot easier if you're looking at a single day report. Best practice to ensure both order of operations and daily work daily are being done is to make sure your Cardlock user has a Cardlock checklist. Make sure that the tasks on that checklist are in the correct order, and have them initial or mark it off each day as they complete the task. If they're dutiful about actually checking off the task as they go, you won't run into problems with them missing a step and breaking the order of operations. You also want to include on that checklist tasks for the 3 main cycles, which is the daily cycle, processing of your transaction files, the billing cycle, processing of your invoices, and the month-end cycle, which includes some reporting. Moving on to pricing, best practices for pricing. Number 1 is to understand the components of pricing. Any pricing method is made up of 3 main components, which is the source of the base price, which might be a cost table. It might be the cost for the controller. In the case of retail transactions, it's either the retail price or the retail cost from the transaction file. The second component is the adjustment type. How are we adjusting that base price? Are we using a margin setting, or are we using a price level? And then the third component is the adjustment amount. How much are we pricing it? How much of a change are we making? Understanding default pricing, there's 3 main transaction types. So those for pricing, the first is local pricing. That's your site, your product. Remote pricing is your customer going to someone else's site, and that's within the network. Then retail is typically an extended network or a super network where they've opened up for retail as well. And those different types of pricing each have their own default method of pricing. For local pricing, the best practice is to use price tables for local pricing. For local transactions, if you're wanting to price off a cost table, we recommend that you set up a price table and label it C, so you know that's the cost table, as the source of your base price, and mark up off of that instead of the cost table. The reason for that is you may want to control your cost plus. You may want to control the cost side of it. When prices are going up or down, you want to slow down the changes to that table. But the cost table itself, you want to be as close as possible to your inventory valuation report. Again, that ties back to the integrity between the Cardlock reporting and the general ledger reporting. For remote pricing, our best practices, if you're a CFN marketer, you should use the R table to add a blanket margin to remote transactions. This gives you a safety net of margin before you start detailing down customer by customer on what kind of margins you're going to make. If you're a Pacific Pride marketer, you want to take advantage of controller pricing to add a blanket margin. And if you don't know how to do that, the folks at Pacific Pride will help you. It's also in your Pacific Pride manuals how to set that up. Also, use pricing regions for site region-specific pricing. Once you get past the blanket margins, if you want to be more specific by site or region, then use those region codes. And for remote pricing in versions 4.3 and above, the region pricing replaces pricing by site. So it is something that you'll have to use if you're doing customer special pricing for remotes. Retail pricing, best practice there is instead of using the retail price as your base, to use the retail cost as your source. That makes sure that you have a margin on every transaction. Some of the networks actually allow the cost to be higher than the price. So if you're basing on the price and you're marking up a low margin, you may not actually make any margin at all. So best practice is to use retail cost. That way you'll always have a margin. And the question comes up, we hear it from customers when we're in the process of doing installs, and they say, how can you mark up retail pricing if the customer sees the pump price? Well, the argument there, your marketing answer there is it's from the services that you provide. Your payment terms, the fact that you offer EFT automatic drafting, fleet reporting, transaction exception reporting, and eCardlink access. And you may have a host of other services that you offer your customer as well. We also talked about understanding quantity breaks. Important concepts there is that all quantity breaks are calculated over the billing period. The two big differences in quantity breaks, they're available in price level pricing, and they're also available through terms code contingent upon payment by discount date. The key differences between those is price level pricing takes the discount out of the price before it's printed on the invoice. So when the customer sees the invoice, he doesn't see anything that says discount, he just has a lower price. And sales are affected by that discount. With terms code discounts, the customer sees his price before discount. There's a memo message up on the invoice that says if you pay by this date, here's your discount amount. But the discount does not get deducted from sales. It gets booked through as discounts when the cash receipts is entered in accounts receivable. So if you're wanting those discounts to affect the sales in Cardlock so that your sales reflect what you actually collected from your customer, terms code is not going to hit target for that. Price level pricing with quantity breaks, again, is set up by product. The markdown is determined by the number of gallons purchased. It can determine gallons by product or by a single product or by all products, and it's applied to the customer price. It's also not dependent on prompt pay. If your customer doesn't pay for 30 to 60 days, he still has the same price. And again, with terms code, with quantity breaks, it's a discount, displays on the invoice, booked to the GL as discounts. It can be set up as a per gallon or a percentage on the gross amount. Keep in mind that terms code is not limited to discounts on your products for your customers. It's also going to discount remotes and retail transactions. One of the important things to know about quantity breaks once you understand this is to make sure that your salespeople understand quantity breaks. So when they're out talking to your customers, talking about the kind of pricing that they can put together for them, that they understand whether what they're offering is available, that they don't get the two systems confused. You can use terms code discounts to encourage your slow payers, and then you might want to use your R tables or customer special pricing to increase your remote pricing before you discount. If you decide to use a combination of quantity breaks, be sure you understand how they work together, because the pricing only option will reflect the discount from price levels, but it won't reflect the discount from terms code. So that's a key thing to remember. Terms code discounts are not reflected in any margin reporting within Cardlock. After you've decided on what you're going to do about quantity breaks, if you have customers set up with quantity breaks, after the convert and edit is run each day, you're going to want to run the rebuild account group unbilled amount utility from the Cardlock setups menu. This goes through, rebuild sorts, recalculates. Basically what it does is recalculates the gallons so that it can apply the correct pricing. You'll get more accuracy for pricing only and for your invoice pricing. A side benefit is you'll also have more accuracy for your Cardlock credit exception report. Pricing region groups. The advantages of pricing region groups is it reduces setups by grouping multiple sites together. You use either DM2 site or you can use network site codes, which is what we call the foreign site codes. It's used in customer pricing screen only. It's the only place they are applied. For remote transactions, it replaces the site option in customer pricing. Product groups. Product groups assist you by reducing setups because you can group, for instance, all of your gas. You may want to group your gas and mid-grade and premium together if you have similar pricing scenarios for all three. They each would go out and look at their own tables, but the fact that you said this customer is tied to this product group and they get a margin of, table B plus 10 cents, whatever table B is for each of those products, they still get a 10-cent margin. This is used again only on the customer special pricing screen. Product groups are not used in tax exemption entry. I just want to make that clear. So now that you've got your pricing set up, how do you know if you got it right? Well, you could print out 200 invoices and pore over them looking for problems. You can mail them out, see if any customers call back. Probably not your best choice. You could get your IT guy to do an export and a bunch of calculations and see what falls out. You may end up holding up billing for half a day or more till you get the results. Or you can run the pricing only option in the Cardlink main menu. This option is available in versions 4.05.6 and above, which means you probably already have it. If you don't already have it, you're overdue for an upgrade. But let me say that the fact that you have it doesn't necessarily mean that you're using it. You'll want to check and get it turned on if you're not using it currently. So what does it do? It prices transactions as though they were invoiced. And once it's run, the current period transaction report has prices and taxes populated for unbilled transactions. Also called the pricing only option or the Cardlink gross profit analysis tool. Pre-invoice margin analysis helps you to proactively shape your margins before generating Cardlock invoices. Helps you to easily identify problem areas, bad margins, in whether it's for customer pricing records or if it's the product tables. You'll see a pattern. It's either with this customer seems to have a problem on every product he buys, or this product seems to be a problem everywhere we sell it. The other big thing about the pre-invoice margin analysis is that it reduces the time it takes you to get your invoices out the door on billing day because you're auditing pricing throughout the cycle. If you're running it every day and checking every day for billing problems, pricing problems, and you get those worked out as you go, by billing day, at the most, you're going to have 1 day's worth of transactions that you have to be concerned with whether the pricing is correct. This product, this feature, is well worth the time it takes to learn how to use it because it takes very little time. Whether you are a standalone Cardlock or a multi-network Cardlock marketer? My opinion is it's the greatest thing to hit Cardlock in many years.
Emily, this is Tom. I ran into one of our larger customers at a CFN conference, and they told me after 3 months of using that they saved about $20,000 by catching mispriced transactions.
I had
so
a customer
quickly pay for itself.
I had a customer last year tell me that when I showed him how to use it, he said this could have made me or saved me $400,000 over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so it's a pretty powerful tool.
It's extremely powerful, and when we say it pays for itself, it's included in your software. It takes probably a half an hour for a consultant to show you how to turn it on and show you how to read the pivot tables. I mean, if you really want to get into it, it might take an hour. So it'll pay for itself at probably the first invoice run you make, because there's no extra charge for this feature. Okay, before you invoice, before you pull the trigger and you're committed, you can review your pricing and your gross margin. You can evaluate your budgeted margins to actual and adjust your pricing. If you have some kind of a company rule that says every Cardlock run we've got to make $10,000 margin, you can run this pricing tool and see if you're going to get a $10,000 margin. It gives you a competitive analysis. There are screens in there so you can see where your customers are going, what sites they're going to, what they're buying, what the cost is, what the price is. So you can see what they're paying for diesel at the station halfway across town from you. And you can use that to stay competitive, decide what you want to do about either pricing your locals or marking up those remotes. You have the ability to determine who the top 10 customers are or the bottom 10. That can be by number of transactions, it can be by dollars sold, or it can be the top 10 margins. It's easy to turn on. There is a spreadsheet, which again in the versions 4.3 for sure, but most of the versions the spreadsheet is already out there. It just needs to be moved from one folder into another to be put into the analysis directory. There's a setup in Cardlock Options. You just check a box on the main screen of Cardlock Options that says Enable Cardlock Analysis Tool. Run from the main menu, Pricing Only option. It'll go through the pricing routine. It uses the current setups that are set up for pricing. It opens Excel, and within Excel it creates 4 pivot tables plus 2 worksheets containing the data. It isolates foreign sales from the analysis, because if you're a marketer on a network, foreign sales isn't anything that you have any control over. The transaction file told you what the price was going to be, and you're not going to change it. Excuse me. The pivot tables, there's a gross margin category tab. This table shows you how many transactions fall within various buckets, how many are below 0, how many below 2 cents, how many transactions have too much of a gross margin. That can be as big a problem as too small. Last thing you want to do is aggravate a big customer because you had a 20-cent margin on him and you made a contract for 12. And what other anomalies might you have? Clicking on a cell in the pivot table opens up a new spreadsheet with the transaction detail behind that analysis. So at this point, I'm going to take you to an analysis. This is what the Cardlock analysis looks like. It starts off in the gross margin categories. This is where it shows you, these are the buckets I was referring to, the categories for margins. We have some transactions that are below 0 to 2 cents. They're greater than 0. I don't have anything less than 0. That's good. you might wonder why I have a 2-cent margin on premium. So if I double click on that, it brings up the names of the customer. It brings up the transaction data. So here's my account number, my customer, the date of the transaction, the card number, but the important thing is what site was it at and what product. And then I can go and see the controller price, my final price, my price with taxes. Then I can either keep that sheet or I can just delete it and get it back out of there. So very easy to drill down on your gross margins. So like I said, you've got some here, we don't usually have those, and we'd go in here and open those up and find out who that was. There's a separate tab. These last two sheets are the sheets with the underlying data. The one that says remotes is truly foreign, and that's all the foreign sites that were sold to, foreign transactions that were sold in this case to the CFN network. That file, that spreadsheet there is the underlying data for the other 4 tabs, which are pivot tables. I can go to customers and it'll list by customer. I can see the quantities that they purchased. But I can actually go back down here and see total gross margin for this customer. And if I go all the way to the end, I can see that the total gross margin for this Cardlock billing cycle is $7,809. If I had a mandate from management that I had to have a $10,000 gross margin on every billing cycle, then I would have to go back and start thinking about how I could improve my pricing, improve my margins. Average gross margin is that pivot table is a listing of all of the sites that your customers visited in this billing cycle. Okay. And these are some samples that I was just showing you. In this example here, the margin category was less than 0, and there were a lot of transactions less than 0, so someone would want to be drilling down there. We have we didn't set up a price table for that site. We have a new site or added a new product to a site, and we didn't set up a price table for it. Pivot tables. Again, by site, average gross margin. I need to get back to my view. So we're looking at how do the margins and the prices look by site. The Customers tab displays each of your customers, showing total gallons, total gross, and unit margin. If there's anything wrong, all you have to do is go back to your setups, correct it. Like if your customer's, he has set up for a 2-cent margin and you meant to have him for a 20-cent margin, go in and fix his pricing and then run pricing only again, and it will correct it and display that new data, and then you'll know you're ready to do invoicing. We saw the 2 tabs for local and foreign sales. So again, these are just screenshots of those pivot tables that we were just looking at. There are a couple limitations. Well, there's basically, there are 2 limitations. It's not the cure-all for everything. It does not display taxes for auditing. So if you have the wrong tax rates, and they're not included in, and they're included in both cost and price, they would have no effect on margin. You could have a 12-cent tax rate instead of a 24-cent tax rate, but the margin's going to remain the same. So it doesn't uncover all problems with taxes, and it won't tell you that you have missing taxes. The other thing is that you can have a good margin and you can still have a bad price if you also have a bad cost. So if you go in and enter a bad cost in your cost table that day and you immediately go to the price table and enter a bad price, The margin may be perfect, but you're not going to charge your customer enough dollars. Best practice for those limitations is always preview your invoices for new customers, new sites, or new products prior to updating. Pricing only is a great place to start, but it's a good idea to, like I said, preview some invoices if you have new setups. This goes for customers, products, or sites that have had setup changes during the billing cycle. Again, some of the shots of the screens. I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? Multiple networks. Moving on to multiple networks. Yes, we can. We have a couple different ways that we can handle two fueling networks in the same with the Mass 90 software. The big issue has always been that CFN and PacPride use different codes for the same product. So product 03 in one network is not the same as product 03 in the other network. So either way, we can do it. It requires custom. The two approaches that we currently use, one is having two companies set up with a bridge, so with separate networks in each one, and then when you do an update, it actually writes that data back to the main company. The other method is using a product cross-reference to change product codes on transactions during the convert process. So for instance, product 03, if you're mainly CFN and you want to merge PacPride in as well, you set up a cross-reference so when PacPride's product comes in, it gets changed over to the product code you're using for CFN. I don't know why I keep going the wrong way. Card management integration with the standard software. CFN cards are maintained on their website and then downloaded to Mass 90. It doesn't matter what other networks you work with because the source file is coming from CFN. You're only going to get CFN cards. PacPride accepts a card file from DM2 for the MAG cards, the blue cards. Card changes are recorded to a file that creates an upload. That's if you're a PacPride person that's using our card management, you know that as the host info file. This does not differentiate between networks, so there may need to have some additional custom done to exclude the CFN cards. PacPride WEX does not allow maintenance integration for extended network supercards at this time. They haven't done it. There isn't a software company in the country that's doing card integration yet. When they're ready to let us do that, DM2 will be working on that. And Voyager and any other networks, there is no card management integration at this time. Now we're ready to start off in the new stuff. Cardlink transaction alerts. It's theft prevention. How much does that cost you? How much does it cost you when your customers have cards that are stolen or misused by one of their employees, and it takes a while to find out? You have billing disputes. You have research. Sometimes you have to go back over 2-3 months of transactions for a customer trying to research. You're calling the remote sites to find out what information you can get from them. How valuable is it to your customers to have theft prevention? For all the grief that they put you through to do this, you know that they're going through a lot themselves trying to run down what went wrong. Does it give you a competitive edge? Cardlock transaction alerts. They're in Mass 90. They are set up by account or by card. There's a separate setting, separate setup for each, or you can create an alert code and apply that to the account or the card. So you can either set up by account, and you can set up all the different, make each decision. There's 4 different things to choose. Or you can set up an alert code that is predefined and then just say, okay, I'm going to make that code attached to this customer or the card. You can set up user-defined alert codes and reduce your setup time. So each code has its own set of parameters, and the codes can be assigned to account or card. And I'm going to need to take a pause for just a second here. Excuse me. Cardlock transaction alerts automatically alert you when either the cards or the accounts, whichever is set up, either fuel on days or at times that they're not permitted to fuel, they exceed a defined number of transactions per day, or they exceed a defined number of gallons per transaction. This transaction alert supports multiple networks, or standalone. You have notification options, whether you want to email internally only, or you can send emails out to your customers, or you can receive just a transaction report. Setting up the alert codes is very simple. You create an alert code, and you can have as many of them as you want. This one example here, they set up an alert code called internal. I did. Now, in this case, I called it internal. I said it was internal transactions, probably thinking that my company has cards for truck drivers and warehouse, yard bosses and stuff like that, and they're fueling our equipment with our own internal cards. So I've got a different set of rules for them than I might apply to my customers. And my customers, have determined what their rules would be. So I only want to see these cards used Monday through Friday, and I want it on a report, and I want to be emailed. And I only want to see it from 6 in the morning. Actually, here I said end 8 o'clock, so I've got 2 hours that they can fuel today. But I'd probably make it from 6 in the morning until maybe 6 o'clock at night. Same thing, report the same way. Transactions per day, I expect 2 transactions per card per day tops. Otherwise, notify me. And gallons per transaction, if it's at least 60 gallons, I want to hear about it. And then I put in the email address that this one's going to go to. This is my internal email address. So this alert code goes on specific cards that are being used internally. I may have another alert code that is being sent to a different internal email address. Maybe it's just for truck drivers, and it's going back to the shop for some reason if they're seeing too many cards, if they're the ones that are tracking miles per gallon or something on that order. Pretty straightforward, fairly simple. And I can have as many codes as I want. Then I can assign those alert codes either in account maintenance or in driver card maintenance. I can override the alert code default settings if I need to. So I can change the quantity. I can change the time restriction. Any part of that default setting I can change once I'm in the customer and I've assigned that code. Best practice for transaction alerts, I would recommend that you create at least one default alert code that seems like it's the norm for your customers. An example, like it might be a day of the week, Monday through Friday, for all times, and only 3 transactions a day, and over 99 gallons I'm going to report on, and set that up internal email to my Cardlock administrator. If you don't have any idea what rules your customers should have, this would be a setting that you could do for you to just start getting a feeling for how many customers are out there fueling more than 3 times a day, fueling more than 99 gallons. You don't have to send this alert off to your customer. It doesn't have to go to whoever's worrying about too many transactions. It can even be used as a tool to just see what kind of activity is going on out there, and then for you to decide or work with your customer or dig into what their card settings are in their if you're on a network to finesse it out at what day of the week it really needs to be or what time. You can assign your default alert code to account maintenance then, and as you get the alerts, you'll be able to identify what customers need different settings other than the default. If you're part of a fueling network, like I said, you can emulate the network setups for those fields. And at this time, there are no alerts for products. So if they've got a card set up for diesel only, it's not going to do anything with that. We're not doing alerts on those. This is an example of the email alert. This is the email. It can be sent internally or to the customer directly, and it includes both the cards and the violation. In this case, this is the account number, and then they've got a list of the cards, and these cards were used too many times in one day. Okay. eCardlink, oh, by the way, Cardlock Transaction Alerts is now available in the standard software. I think the product was released around the time of user conference last year, and it is available as a retrofit. If you wanted to have it retrofitted to your software, there would be a charge for that. But it is available as stock software in all the software since August. eCardlink, this is customer service, it's customer self-service, available 24/7. eCardlink is a web site. It is can be either your website or it can be a website hosted by DM2. Cardlock customers can access their account information and make changes and research information when they want to. What's available for them is invoices. They can see old invoices. They can see statements with payment history. They can see their transactions. They can look at their cards, and they can view the contact information that's set up for their account and make changes to that. This is what the website looks like just going in. This is the main menu of the eCardlink. You have, from main menu, you have access to account maintenance, to inquiries and reports, and to invoice reprints. Within account maintenance, well, before I dig into that, the setups, your administrators set up your customer users. So you have web users have access to all account information. Specific permission must be given for access to PINs. So, excuse me, once they're logged into the website, users can look at everything that's in there, but they can't look at other people's, at the PINs. They have to have special permission for customer PINs. Based on setups, your user can access more than one account. So if you have a very large customer who has 4, 5, 6 accounts, because that's the way they want them invoiced, they can still have a single user that can access them as long as that's all set up that way. Company image, your logo and brand image appears on the website, and DM2 is not mentioned. So invoices can be viewed and reprinted. This reprint is an exact replica of the original invoice, even reproducing your pre-printed forms. Statements allow them to view all their invoices and payment activity, or they can look at just unpaid Cardlock invoices. When they're looking at the transactions, they can see both current and historical transactions. They can filter by date, by card or vehicle. They can sort by date, card, vehicle, product, site. This is going to cut down on a lot of requests for reports from you. They can be viewed on the website, or they can be downloaded into a CSV file for use in Excel or elsewhere. On this screen here is a Cardlock invoice reprint. The customer here was able to reprint his own invoice without being put on hold or wait for business hours. Well, it's tax time. That kind of hits a nerve, doesn't it? eCardlink billing statement. The billing statement, availability of it, eliminated a call from a customer. Have you received my Cardlock payment yet? He checked on eCardlink and he verified there are no outstanding Cardlock invoices. Saved 2 or 3 minutes of your credit department's time. eCardlink fuel summary report. This is the same fuel summary report that we have in the software. It's by driver or vehicle card, and it displays transaction data with summary information by account. And the fuel summary report is often used by companies, by marketers, when a customer wants something about his invoice, but he doesn't want to see an invoice. He just wants to see everything that was billed through there. Or he wants to see it for more than just one invoicing period. This report, as you can see, was run like from April through July. So it may be a quarterly report. But it's structured much like our invoice, so they would see the vehicles together. When they're looking at transactions, they're able to see the date and time, location, product quantity, the unit price, and the total invoice price if it's only available for invoice transactions. The driver card number and the driver name, the vehicle card number and description, the odometer and miscellaneous entries, and their group ID if they belong to a group. Transaction inquiry screen, here's what it looks like. They go in and they enter the date range that they want to see. They can specify a card. Whoops. They can specify a card, or they can say all cards. Same with vehicles. And they can sort by, and this is where they get to choose whether it's by date, by card, by vehicle. And then they can say how many transactions per page, or they can download the file. This is what the transaction inquiry screen looks like. This looks like, this particular one here looks like it's not been invoiced because we don't have a unit price or an extended amount on it. There's another, this screen gives you transaction detail. They drill down on one individual transaction, and it comes up with more detail listed in a different shaped grid. Content for cards. Both the driver and vehicle cards are available, whether they're active or inactive. They can be viewed or downloaded into a CSV file. Customer can request new cards, lock out cards, change descriptions, and request replacement cards. These requests are emailed to your office for you to process. So the customer is not writing to your live data. They're making requests based on what they see in the live data. So this is where, when this is put together, your logo would go up here. I told you DM2 doesn't appear anywhere, but it does in our demo. This is a list of the card maintenance screen. Whoops. The list of the options for the card maintenance screen. You've got a driver card listing. They can request a new driver card or replace a driver card. They can change a driver card description, lock out cards, unlock cards, provided, of course, that the card wasn't locked because of credit issues, and then they could go to a previous menu. Cardlock card maintenance, if they decide that they're going to order a new card, it opens up a grid for them to fill in. They can put in their card description and the products they're going to be buying and the card type and tax exemptions, anything in there that they need to add to have this card correctly filled out. Customers can change their address and contact information. This is actually the user ID, the person that's logging in. So if you have 3 different users and one leaves the company and you're going to go in and change it, perhaps you're keeping the user ID but changing the name, probably not a good idea. But anyway, this is where you would maintain that. Perhaps you change your email addresses in-house, and so they need to go in and correct those. So there's your password. They can do those, and they can also correct phone numbers. These changes also are forwarded by email to your customer service department for them to enter the changes. Now, DM2 has a demo site set up for eCardlink, so you may want to take a moment and write this down if you want to go look at eCardlink, and look through the demo yourself. The address is www.ecardlink.com, and all you need is a user ID is demo, and the password can either be your email address or blank. And if you want to send items from the demo base out to yourself, then you'd need to set up enter that email address. It's not saved anywhere, but it needs to be entered in there for you to save anything that you're going to email to yourself. Okay.
Emily,
we promised to talk about
excuse me, Emily, a couple other things on eCardlink before you move on. You can also access it. We've got a hyperlink embedded in our Cardlink page that's on our website. So if you're on the Cardlink page, you can also hyperlink over to the demo there. And then the other thing is eCardlink is available in 2 forms. We sell it as a module that you can actually load on your own servers and run yourself. Or we offer to host that service for you, and we have a monthly charge for that. What a lot of customers will do if they're just getting into this, they'll let us run it and pay the monthly subscription until they realize or get a feel for the kind of volume they're going to have before they decide to take that on their own. So I just wanted to point that out before you go on, Emily.
Thank you. So we promised to talk about reducing paper. Ways to reduce paper. One is to utilize a PDF printer for your edit reports in Cardlock. Yeah, Cardlock sees PDF printers as real. And I know if you've been with Cardlock for very long, you know that every time you wanted to go and run an edit report, you can't preview it. You couldn't print it to a generic text printer. You always had to actually send it to a real printer. And PDF printers are recognized by the system as real printers. So edit reports are an excellent thing to go to a PDF. They are important reports. They shouldn't be destroyed. They shouldn't be previewed and updated anyway. So PDF printer, because it's an excellent way to save these reports off in a file that you can then go and look at anytime in the future when you feel like you need to. It's a great option. And there's lots of PDF printers available. Sage has a PDF creator built into the software. There are a lot of free PDF printers that you can download. And, of course, there's Adobe PDF. Sales journals are another excellent task for a PDF printer, getting that printer out to a file, because if you need a copy of a sales journal, it's usually faster to reprint it. It's faster, if you need a copy of it, it's faster to print it than it is to copy a paper copy. It's also usually easier to go find it in a file if you're well organized with your electronic documents. It's easier to find it in a file than it is to go through boxes or drawers trying to find the right sales journal for that Cardlock run. We also recommend you use Outbox to email or fax your Cardlock Crystal form. Now, you have to have Crystal. Crystal invoices are really the way to go. We're pretty much pushing everybody to go to a Crystal Cardlock invoice. And the reason I say email or fax your Crystal form is because those forms are easily modified with your logos and all of that, so they actually just make a beautiful PDF. The forms that are sent out through Outbox actually are PDF forms again. So using Outbox not only saves you paper, it saves you postage, office supplies, and manpower. And the folks that are using it love it. Reprints can also now go to Outbox. It is no big deal to go in and print a reprint invoice to Outbox now. Much, much easier than going and digging out somebody's hard copy and faxing it to them. Highly recommended that you switch to, if you're not already on a Crystal Cardlock invoice form, that you switch. One of the things that does is it enables the department sort invoice. So it's a recap invoice now available. It lists on each transaction line, you not only get the quantity and the price and the location, but you also get a breakout of the federal and the state and the other motor fuel taxes, the sales tax. It's all broken out on the line for you. And then on top of all of that, it also lets you sort by department. So I've been hearing that for many years, that we've got an account with this city and we have to do invoice that we have to have their transactions broke out for these, by fire department, police department, sanitation department, and there was a lot of jumping through loops. Sometimes that meant we had to produce give them back a GL account. Well, with department sorts, we can actually assign a department to every card, and then the description for that department can be that GL account if that's what it needs to be. Or it could be, say, police department. Or it could say sales versus administration. So a lot of people have been looking for department sort invoices for a long time, and they are now available, but only with Crystal Cardlock invoices. You can also have the ability to print your logo on both paper and Outbox PDFs. We have some announcements, and then we'll move on to questions. So, Tom, do you want to take over these announcements?
Sure. I just wanted to, we announced this through an email blast that we sent out to all of our Pacific Pride customers. We talked about it during the last Cardlock Best Practices webinar, but I just wanted to remind everybody again that DM2 is working with Pacific Pride to test out the new T6 local.csv file format along with the NACS product code set. And because the upgrade of your Cardlink system has to coincide with your Pacific Pride controller upgrade, we're asking everybody to contact Donna Allison over at Pacific Pride. Donna's going to put the schedule together for the controller upgrades and then coordinate with us so our Cardlink upgrades coincide with those controller upgrades. So again, any Pacific Pride customers that haven't contacted Donna, we'd want to encourage you to do that as soon as possible. And we're going to be starting to roll those upgrades out very shortly. All right, if you want to go to the next slide. And we're continuing on with our webcast series. We've scheduled a webcast for March 8th on a new feature that we're introducing. We've developed a consigned stations module that can help anybody who's supplying consigned stations eliminate a lot of the a separate spreadsheet handling and rekeying of information into their system by creating a web-based portal that consignees can go in to enter a lot of the information that you need to collect on the sales throughput there. So we want to encourage everybody to attend that webinar next month. I'll be sending out an invitation right after this webinar ends, and you can register for that webinar.
I'll be there. I want to see it.
Okay, that's it for the announcements. We do have several questions, so we can start rolling into those. The first question is from Sean over at Interstate. This is a Pacific Pride Right Express related question. He is asking if there is a card file acceptance available for Cardlink.
Card file acceptance?
Yes, we might need some more clarification from you on that, Sean.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that term.
Okay. Yeah, that's how he's worded his question. Sean also has another question about the email alerts. He's asking, how can you put in separate email addresses for that? So if you have multiple emails you want to send those alerts out to.
Are you talking about the internal or the external? Because the internal is part of the Cardlock alert setup. The external would be coming from, is it from Outbox?
He's asking about both. Yeah, he wants to know if
well,
we can set up multiple emails.
It's easy. In Outbox, you can set up as many contacts as you want for every event that triggers, Outbox. For internal, I would think that there's only one field there for internal, so I would think that what you could do is if you had, if you always wanted the internal ones to go to the same two people, that you could set up in your Outlook or, in your email, like a group, like a, billing app type of thing or whatever that has multiple users on it, multiple contacts on it. That would be a setting that you would do on your email side and then use that email.
Okay. All right. The next question is from Rich over at United, and I believe you covered this, Emily.
Hi, Rich.
He currently doesn't have the Cardlock alert feature and wants to know if that requires a program update. And as you said, it is available. It was released in the new 4.4 version, the first iteration of 4.4 that came out middle of last year, and you can retrofit it.
Right, and Rich is on version 4.3.3, standalone Cardlock. So you would not have to upgrade per se, but you probably will want to weigh the cost of retrofitting the one feature versus what it would cost you for an upgrade for your situation. I think I would look at both, but it certainly is available for you just to be retrofitted if you don't feel like you want to upgrade at this time.
Right. Okay. Thank you. All right. The next one is from Tyler over at EdStob. He's asking, would invoices and transactions be uploaded to eCardlink as soon as the changes are made in Cardlink? So I guess the question is that a real-time update or is there a lag there?
It is set up to update on a schedule, like a frequency schedule. It's a lot like rsync. So in fact, it's set up like rsync on your Tyler with your web scheduling. So if it's set up to update every 15 minutes or whatever, then that's how often it would update. And I could find out from Seth, get more detail on that for you from Seth, but I know that it updates more than once a day. It's a link that you keep open to the Cardlink. You keep that link open all the time on your server so that it can update. But I'm not sure how frequently it does it, whether that's a setting that Seth does or whether it's automatically going to do it every half hour or what. So I'll find out.
All right, we'll check on that for you. All right, another question from Sean. He's asking if there is dual network support for eCardlink. So if they're running multiple networks, is that
well,
supported
the thing
with
about
eCardlink?
eCardlink is it is customer driven. If your customer logs in, he's going to see whatever network he's got cards for on that account. So the only thing did I answer the question, Sean, or were you referring to something like the card maintenance? Because I noticed that there's a card maintenance screen there, and there is usually some difference between the two. And as near as I know, it's just a single screen for card maintenance.
Okay, I'll scroll through the other questions and see if he's commented back on that.
Okay.
All right, the next question is for Marcia, and she is asking what is the cost for DN2 to host eCardlink. I'll go ahead and answer that, Emily. Marcia, we actually have 4 different rates depending on the number of users that are accessing it. So it's kind of a floating scale there. We can follow up with you and give you the exact pricing for the different blocks there. We have, I believe, that's from 1 to 100 users is X amount a month, and then it goes up from 101 and up to that. And then if you and there's a cap. If you have 1,500 or more, you won't pay any more than that top fee there. So we'll make sure we follow up with you and give you the exact pricing on that. Another question from Marcia, has there been work done to make the tax changes easier? I'll need you to comment on that, Emily.
The utility that we have for doing tax changes is the Cardlink Global Tax Utility. There haven't been any changes to it. So if you've used that, Marcia, and you find that it's cumbersome, though, that's what we have. There hasn't been any changes in that area.
Okay, Sean has commented about the card file acceptance. He's saying what he's referring to is it's there to upload cards into Cardlink. So could you take that Pacific Pride card file and upload it into Cardlink?
The only upload that we do into Cardlink is the CFN card file. That's the only upload that we do. Our Pack Pride integration has always been just whatever we create in Mass 90 goes into a file that gets uploaded to the Pack Pride controller.
Okay. The next question is from Shellen. She's asking about statements on eCardlink. Is the statement just the most recent RAND statement, or does it regenerate a new statement as of the date the customer pulls the statement in eCardlink?
This is the live one here. I've had it open so that we could go take a look at it. So if I go, and this is the demo, so it's the same one you'd see. If I go into the billing statement, well, isn't that special? My session expired. Well, I have had it open a while. You said that there's a link right from our website too, right? I can demonstrate that right now.
Sure. Yeah, if you go to the Cardlink page or Cardlock automated fueling page there.
Page? Okay. And then
link there in that last sentence.
Okay. Okay, now on to billing statement. So invoices to display are all invoices paid and unpaid, or unpaid invoices only. But yes, it does look like as though it would be the statement as of today. So if I run it for all invoices paid and unpaid, hard to say how much history is on this demo, but well, they've got, they're showing only covers about 3 data to go back to. And that's controlled by accounts receivable and how long you're hanging on to open invoices in the open invoice file. This information is coming from, statement information is coming from accounts receivable, not from Cardlock. Oh, there's more.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sean just asked you to clarify on the CardLink alerts. He's asking, so there's only one internal email address you can enter. Is that correct?
One per alert code.
One
so
per
if you have
alert
multiple,
code.
if you had multiple alert codes, like you had one alert code that you were using for, say, the trucking area, the people that drive trucks, and their alerts go to one person, you could set up the alert code for those and put it to the truck cards. And then you had another one that was maybe for salespeople, because they're driving cars that take gasoline, and they're salespeople. So you may have those Cardlock alerts going to, the AP department or it may be going to, the sales manager. And so you would set up one called, an alert called code sales, and with an email address for that one, and assign it to the cards that are going with the salesman cars, vehicles, sales vehicles versus delivery vehicles. And you may have yet another one for, the warehouse for fueling forklifts, having to do with the, if they're filling propane tanks or whatever. But per transaction, per code, there was only room for one email. Here. There's one internal email address. Now, on the other hand, if it was internal cards, if, in my example here, these were internal cards, I could actually have it set up as the customer to do that as well. That internally, I've got an internal customer as well as whoever's handling this. And then the transaction alerts are a choice in Outbox. So when I get to Outbox, I can choose who it's going to for customers, just like my Cardlock invoices. I can send a Cardlock invoice out to 3 or 4 different people on an account through Outbox. I can do the same thing with transaction alerts.
Okay. We've got another CardLink alert-related question from Nicole. She's asking if the alerts can include dollar amounts. No. There's nothing about the alerts that have anything to do with dollar amounts. And here's why. The Cardlock alert is actually created at the time of the convert and edit. So at this point, we haven't even done the pricing. But at the point of the convert and edit, we immediately know, because all these cards, all these transactions are coming in a single batch, okay, a single file, and we're looking through that file to see how many more transactions we have. We have 3 transactions in this file. Boom, we hit an event, and we're going to send out a notice. But pricing wouldn't work because we don't even know what we're going to price them yet. So we wouldn't have a dollar amount, particularly for local transactions. Okay. Got another CardLink alerts related question from Shalyn. She's asking, does the default alert need to be assigned to each customer account, or can it be assigned to all customers?
Each customer would have to be assigned. There's no global setting for that.
And then she's asking
unless
if
you have
it is
Visual
assigned.
Integrator and you want to import it, but it would have to be on each account.
Okay, and that's actually the second part of her question. If it is assigned to each customer, can it be imported?
Sure. Sure, I would think so. What is it about it that makes the setup? Yeah, because I would think you're going to have a new data dictionary. Let me. I have one installed that has currently has these. They don't have it set up. They're not using it yet. They're new, but they do have the software account maintenance. On the additional tab, you've got transaction alerts, or you can do your setups. So I'm thinking that would be part of, if it's not that data file, if it's not part of the Cardlock account maintenance data file, it'll be another data file, but there should be a data dictionary for it. But we'll have to find that out for sure, Tom.
Okay. All right. Next question is from Sean again, and this is Civic Pride and CFN, and the customer only needs a replacement for the CFN card and not the Civic Pride side.
To replace a single card? I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, I believe that's what he's asking.
Well, if he's going to order a card or have a card replaced, he would only have, the card number would only be on one network or the other. He wouldn't be replacing all of his cards. So if he had a whole list of cards here and he needed to order one, it wouldn't matter which network it was on, because when it came in, it's going to come back as an email. It's coming back as an email, and whoever's administering the website, handling these requests and everything, they're going to go ahead and place an order for the card. They're going to know from the card number whether it was Pac Pride or CFN. Nothing's being automatically uploaded as a result of the customer ordering anything on the website.
Okay. And, you know, if we haven't answered these questions to your satisfaction, you can always email me or Emily. My email address is simple. It's tom@dm2.com. So if we need to clarify more on these answers, we certainly do that for you. Next question is from Tyler again. In eCardlink card maintenance, if a customer makes a change to their card, such as the products allowed or a different limit, will that information be uploaded into the host info file?
No.
To be uploaded to the Pac Pride controller?
No. It is only going to come back as an email to your user, your Cardlock administrator person, whoever's the contact when we set up the eCardlink. They're going to get an email requesting this information. Nothing writes to any kind of file automatically. Basically, anything they send you is a request in the form of an email.
Okay. Next question is from Nicole again. Is it possible to set up prepay accounts?
Cardlink really doesn't care. I don't think Cardlink cares. about whether a customer is prepaid or not. That would be an accounts receivable function. And it's really not a function of, I mean, the card's not going to shut off. If somebody gives you $500, their card's not going to shut off at the pump when they hit $500. That's a bank card feature, not a Cardlock card. So, I mean, you certainly could put prepayments on accounts. A lot of folks do that, but I'm not sure when you say is it possible what functionality you're looking for. But drop me an email and we can have a little chat about that if you like.
Now, Emily, we can set it up so you can get a warning when somebody's approaching their credit limit, correct?
Right. There's credit alerts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But understand that the credit alerts is not 100% on the spot, on the money, because the thing about credit alerts is and we're talking about Cardlock credit exception reports, what we're talking about, and that report is looking at unbilled dollars and what's owed in AR and what the customer's credit limit is. And if you've got a prepayment on their account and you set the credit limit at 0, I suppose it could let you know when you get to 0 or you get over 0, but they're over the 500 now. I mean, that's the thing about Cardlock is you're always going to have some risk that they're going to go over because the cards just don't shut off when they hit that dollar amount because you haven't done your billing. The card doesn't know.
Right.
The network doesn't know.
Okay. It looks like all the questions we've had have been answered. As I said, if anybody needs a little bit further explanation or clarification on the answers we've given, feel free to email Emily or myself. And as I said, we have been recording this session. As soon as the recording's available, I'll send out a message to everybody with a link that will take them to our customer content page, and you can enter your email address and your Sage customer number and then be able to download those. And we'll also put the presentation slides up there so you can download those as well and review them or share them with anyone else in your company. I want to thank everybody for attending today's session. And I want to thank you, Emily. You did a great job. And we'll look forward to having you join us next month for our Consigned Stations webinar on March 8th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you and goodbye.